So, welcome everybody to our webinar today, where we'll be talking about hidden cyber risks in EV charging and how to mitigate them. And today we'll be showing you how AI keeps your cyber defenses going 24/7. If you follow the media channels, you'll see dozens of stories, research projects, and news articles being published about cybersecurity attacks around EV charging. For example, in the top left corner, you see a research project in which different chargers were manipulated to overheat the charging cable until it caught fire. Now, while that's an extreme example, we also see cases of leaking sensitive data, although you could argue which is more extreme, and chargers being put out of commission and other vulnerabilities being exploited. And this trend keeps growing with EV adoption and the deployment of more and more EV chargers across the world. Today, we take a three-pronged approach to securing EV charging networks. Our solution at Driivz includes proactive security monitoring, compliance with global cybersecurity standards, and robust encryption and authentication protocols to safeguard your network. We partner with SaiFlow, who add their expertise in security for energy systems, including vulnerability assessments, penetration testing, and more, as you'll see later on in this webinar. And we'll also show you how we use AI to make your networks even more robust and automated with always-on protection. So here's our agenda for today. We'll start with the risks, what's really happening beneath the surface of this industry, and understand the potential impacts and discuss mitigation strategies. Then we'll show you a snapshot of Driivz security framework, and we'll explore how AI is driving smarter protection and faster defense. We'll look at real examples, share insights from our own operations, and discuss how AI is shaping the future of secure EV. SaiFlow is partnering with Driivz to implement the most robust cybersecurity on our platform. In our lineup today, Ron, SaiFlow's CEO, will go through some of the latest cyber attacks that they're seeing in EV charging networks. He'll be joined by Lionel, who heads up SaiFlow's security research, and will go into some more technical details. And he's even going to show you one of the coolest gadgets they've developed in-house to identify security breaches in EV chargers. Finally, Shachar will go through some of the cybersecurity best practices we use here at Driivz and show some examples of how we're using AI to keep that security vigilant and always on. And I'll be here in the background managing the mechanics of the webinar. And just a bit of housekeeping before we get started. Your mics and cameras are off, but we'll be happy to get your reactions during the presentation. We will be popping up some questions for you to answer during the webinar, so stay alert. And there should be time for questions in the QA section at the end of the webinar. And with that, I'd like to welcome Ron Tiberg-Shachar, SaiFlow CEO, to open the door to the dark side of cybersecurity risks for EV charging network. It's all yours, Ron.
Thank you, everyone, for joining the webinar. I'm Ron. I'm the co-founder and CEO of SaiFlow. And briefly before diving deeper into the details of the cybersecurity risks and solutions for EV charging environments, let me give you a brief overview about SaiFlow. We are an AI-powered driven company that provides energy contextual cybersecurity solutions for EV charging and other distributed energy devices, sites, and networks by uniquely fusing the power data, the charging data, together with the network data in real time in order to extract cybersecurity insights in real time. And so let's jump right in and start our journey when talking about the potential cybersecurity risks exposure that should be addressed in the overall ecosystem. And so starting with realizing that when looking at EV charging sites and networks, there are vast connections to the outside world. The connections could be to electric vehicles themselves. They could be through the charging stations to the backend, the charge point management systems, to MSP, to OTA update capabilities, to mobile application, and even close proximity by the drivers that are connected or could connect various devices. And the bottom line is that the potential risks coming with the actual architecture with the vast connectivity is accordingly very high. And we'll dive to understand some more about that before talking about how we could and should solve that overall risk. And so on this slide, you can see a principal diagram of a single EV charging site. Of course, it changes from one use case to the other. You can spot the chargers on the screen connected to the electric vehicles. In many of the use cases, we would find an internal network connecting them to various other type of devices and energy IoT assets. Could be battery storage, could be even solar systems, could be local controllers, smart meters, and the list goes on. And they're all connected to the outside world as well, to various SaaS-based platforms in the cloud. Could be energy management systems, could be charge point management systems, could be fleet management, payment platforms, and so on and so on. And when looking at that existing architecture from a hacker's perspective, the risks grow accordingly. There are endless potential attack vectors that could be exploited and executed in order to run a targeted cyber attack and cause various possible damage to these type of devices and overall networks. You would find remote possible exploitations, as attackers could exploit internet connected devices or poorly secured management consoles, public APIs that could let attackers enter your environments and leverage the existing architecture in order to cause the eventual damage on site. There are various local or close proximity exploitations that could be rolling out when you have your own devices that could be connected with Bluetooth, with mobile application, with actual connectors that in a few seconds Lionel will showcase to you. All of that could also exploit poor cyber hygiene that some sites or some networks might have in place in order to initiate an ongoing cyber attack and eventually cause damage. I will also mention the various vendor access points. Various vendors have their own channels. Some are using OCPP shadow channels in order to maintain their own ability for remote maintenance, upgrades, updates. That access could also be potentially exploited by the various possible hackers or attackers. And that is also part of the overall architecture that you have in place. I would summarize this slide by saying that the principal or potential attack surface could be very vast, meaning that the probability of executing a successful cyber attack is quite high. And this is exactly what we are focusing at helping CPOs to mitigate as much as possible and prevent the potential damage. And when talking about the potential damage, there are also quite several options for the attackers to execute. Could be various types of denial of service, starting from a single charger, connecting them from the site, disconnecting them, from the overall network. But also at scale, you could execute a distributed denial of service, hijack the OCPP connectivity, and cause disconnection that at scale could, of course, translate to the operations and the business of your overall network. We could also find possible damage resulting in local, regional, or national outages, given the connection to other local substations or even local and national grids. That is also part of what a possible attack vector could look like, starting from the grid edge, meaning the actual charges, and scaling up toward the eventual grid. The last example I would mention would be various types of theft. Could be stealing personal information, personal identifiable information from your customers, or credit card credentials, or even stealing energy by duplicating credential and authentication methods in order to bypass the payment method. And these are some of the examples that we already see in reality. I will also share with you that at SaiFlow, we have our own research activities. And as part of that, we are constantly attacking our own network in our own lab. Of course, just our own lab in order to test our engines. But consequently to that, we are continuously discovering new vulnerabilities on the software layer, the hardware layer, even the protocol layer. Whenever we are finding new vulnerabilities, we're uploading them to our own platform, making sure that our customers are made aware of them so that they could mitigate accordingly and minimize the potential exposure. But we're also, of course, reaching out discreetly to the affected vendors, making sure that they're mitigating and addressing these vulnerabilities and making sure that they are offering some sort of solution and patches before we are publishing together with them, usually, our discoveries. I will share with you that we are finding vulnerabilities on the actual charges, on the connectivity to the mobile application, to the EMSP platforms, to Bluetooth connectivity. We are finding vulnerabilities on some of the actual protocols, the OCPP protocol, the V2G protocol, in some cases even to the connectivity to the backend, to the CPMS. And of course, eventually, like in all type of environments, anything could be hacked and attacked. And it's a continuous effort together with the CPOs to make sure that these risks are mitigated as time goes by and new risks are being introduced to the breathing and evolving environment. We prepare to share some concrete examples of some vulnerabilities and attack vectors, but these are only a few of the possible examples that are available to potential attackers that could be exploited. We will showcase how the actual charges connector could be exploited for a cyber attack. We will showcase how the charger could be remotely exploited for a denial of service by using the connection to the outside world, to the CPMS, and eventually also showcase a possible payment fraud by leveraging the RFID credentials in order to avoid paying the charging session. And in order to share with you some of these examples, I will call upon Lionel, our VP of Security Research, to showcase these examples to you. Lionel, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you very much, Ron. Let me deep dive into the details of the few examples that you just mentioned. We'll start with the one that is related to the charger connector. In SaiFlow, in our research team, we continuously discover and assess the attack surface of the EV charging infrastructure and the EV charger themselves. And one of the things that we wanted to explore in our research team is the interface of that is in charge of charging the electric vehicles themselves. We know that in the DC fast chargers, the communication between the vehicle and the EV charger is done through TCP/IP, which delivers the different protocols. And we want to explore that. And what you can see here in the picture on the right side is the device that we have created, especially for our exploration and POC. I have it also here with me. So we can actually simulate an electric vehicle. If it's a simple charging session, or if it's manipulating the packets in the protocol itself. So if it's the Slack protocol, the SEC, or the V2G itself, and in order to find different methods and vectors to exploit the EV charger. We took this device and explored the different vendors in our lab, and we found a few interesting insights. So one of them is still in this in security disclosure, but I hope to update you soon. One of the vendors that we found have multiple vulnerabilities. And what we found is when we connect our device simulating the electric vehicle, after the first protocol, the Slack, we can communicate with IPv6. And we found that one of the services, the SSH service, which is for remote management, is exposed. Not only that, it's exposed with default credentials using root and root, providing full compromise for the attacker and full control of the power device. So essentially what we can actually see that in this vendor is managed in this board, you can see that it's controlling the power, so we can also perform fraud. we can control the cooling system. So potentially we can perform physical damage by manipulating the cooling parameters. And from there on, potentially, depending on the architecture and how the EV charger is built, we might even have a lag into the internal network of the CPO if it's behind the private APN or VPN. In this case specifically, I would honestly say this was not possible because they have different boards. But if you want more details, I can tell you about it later. But again, it depends on the vendor. We can see here in the screenshot the kernel, the Linux kernel that was used, an old one, usually installed on embedded devices, the CPU, and the folder that contains the software of that EV charger. And if we'll get back to the previous slide, and what we also found out, so we didn't stop at the SSH and that's it. We investigated their implementation of the Slack protocol, which is used for the vehicle and the EV charger to negotiate and understand their close proximity and that the vehicle is actually physically connected to the EV charger. We found that in this protocol, some fields are expecting a specific length of values, a classic buffer overflow, and a POC that we have implemented in our lab. We have demonstrated with a real RCE, real POC, showing how we can exploit that in order for the EV charger to connect back to us and gain the same capabilities as you can see here, as you already see in the images before. So again, in that case, we can potentially physically damage the electric vehicle or maybe the EV charger. Again, within a few caveats, each one have their own protection system, but this is the idea. On the next slide, we can see a simple, on the next one, yes, and we can see just a simple glimpse of the regular charging session, which emulates the full protocols, actually consuming 0 kilowatts. What you can see in the video is that it will go over the different steps that the EV charger performs, the authentication, the charging cables, and so on and so on, until we get into the part where we actually simulating the charging session. You can see here the percentage of the state of charge of the vehicle is jumping. This is abnormal. I would alert on something like that. And with the 0 kilowatts, even more. This is for the close proximity. So actually we are connected to the EV charger. So it's a physical connection. But in other cases, not in this webinar, we're already aware of different Bluetooth or other or broken wire attacks that can exploit and perform different attacks. On the next slide, what we can see is a better large-scale attack. So if before that we are talking on physically connected, the scale of such an attack is smaller, but the damage can be even way more impactful. In this case, we are talking about an attacker who is fully remotely compromising the business logic and exploiting vulnerabilities of the interfaces that one of the vendor exposes, allowing users to start a charging session of their EV chargers. Using their mobile application, we found that the API that is exposed in order to allow that interaction with the user is it doesn't enforce authentication. So anyone without even authentication or a simple user can connect to that. And the only thing that you need is to know the serial number of that EV charger of that vendor. So if we talked about before about the shadow OCPP or the maintenance channel that the vendors maintain, chargers that are also managed by a third party, they will also be able to exploit that. So even if they are connected to a third party, they still maintain the vendor connection and be exploitable and exposed to this attack. We demonstrated using this attack how the attacker, the threat actor, can send different messages in order to start or stop a charging session, limit the power that is delivered to the vehicle. So potentially we can take it in even further into simulate a simultaneous attack coordinated on a variety of EV charger in a certain region in order to try and impact the grid or the regional grid, or try to trip the breaker in the site. Essentially, you can also perform denial of service, ransomware, and different types of attacks, exploiting this maintenance channel. So this is about the broader and large-scale attack. And for the last example that Ron mentioned is the fraud and stealing credential or stealing energy, essentially. We can, I hope that you're already familiar with the authentication that is using RFID in this example, and you are familiar with the Flipper Zero, which is a cool, nice tool, like a Swiss knife, that allows even script kiddies or simple threat actors to try to enumerate the RFID value that is on the card. It's not a cryptographic authentication, meaning that it relies only on the manufacturer ID that is printed into the card. In that sense, it means that everyone can clone that ID. It's not that unique. And you can try to enumerate. You can see here in our lab, my Flipper Zero, trying to each time a different ID value until I get a success authentication, and potentially I can charge on behalf of a different user or a victim that the billing will go to him. We can even take it further and try to enumerate a large scale of ID values until we have a good batch that we can try to sell on the dark web or different forums in order to sell them and gain money that way. And in that in mind, I will go back to you, Ron.
Thank you, Lionel, very much. And by the way, I'm inviting everyone to follow SaiFlow on LinkedIn, where we publish usually our new vulnerabilities and usually provide a lot of thorough technological overview about the vulnerabilities that we detected and how they can be exploited by potential hackers or attackers. So you're invited to follow up our LinkedIn profile in order to get all these new updates. And so moving on from the security risks and exposure to the part where we talk and dive some more about the securing of these type of environments. And I would start off by saying that, at least from our perspective, cybersecurity is not just about compliance. It's about keeping your chargers and your overall charging network online and your customers happy. And so uptime and security share the same goal, maximizing availability and value to your customers so that everyone can deeply rely on the charging infrastructure, which eventually also supports the transition to greener energy and to electric vehicles at scale. And so the first thing I would like to share with you is our 7 best practices, principal best practices to protect your network. And after overviewing them, we will dive some more to both SaiFlow's and Driivz's actual offering concerning how to secure your network. So these are 7 principal practices that starts with gaining visibility. As you all know, you cannot secure what you cannot see. So it's essential to understand what are the actual devices that you have per site and throughout your entire network, but not only the existence of these chargers or other devices, but also the exact hardware models, versions of your software, your firmware versions, and also the overall architecture, what is connected inside the site, what is connected to the outside world. So you could continuously realize whether there are any unnecessary risks and continuously minimize and address them accordingly. The second principle is to patch fast. You should be aware of the new vulnerabilities that are being discovered and published, so you could take the necessary steps in order to address these new risks and make sure you are upgrading and updating and patching whatever is needed in any given site and, of course, throughout your whole network. The next principle would be to harden your network. Make sure you are keeping connections that are needed. You are keeping open ports only when needed. You have strong password credentials. You're not duplicating them. We see a lot of attacks that gain scale given the duplication of credentials and passwords and configurations between devices and between sites. And wherever possible, also aspire to encrypt your communications as well. The fourth principle, I believe, is perhaps the most important among all these important principles, and that is to monitor continuously your devices, your sites, your networks. Make sure you're able to detect energy anomalies, charging anomalies, and actual cyber incidents. Otherwise, without the monitoring component, you are navigating in the dark. And so that is critical to have in place. The fifth principle is to make sure you're securing your supply chain. Make sure the vendors that you collaborate with, that you've embedded within your network and are connected in many cases to your devices, have their own security in place so that the potential attack vectors won't exploit these unsecure possible vendors in order to execute a cyber attack onto your own sites and network, given especially the vast connectivity that these sites have to the outside world. Plan for incidents. Make sure you define the necessary playbooks, policies, roles, and escalation channels within your organization so that in case of a cyber incident, you will have everything under control and be able to address it as soon as possible. It is important to remember that cybersecurity is not just technology. Technology is a critical part of your overall cybersecurity posture, but you must make sure the overall organization is equipped with handling these cyber incidents. It's also important to realize that cyber attacks are usually a question of when and not question of if they will take place. So be prepared to handle these cyber incidents throughout the day, throughout the week, and so on. The last principle, just as important, is make sure you test and assess your cybersecurity posture, both your technology components that are embedded within your overall network, but also the organizational supporting aspects, the escalation paths, the playbooks. Make sure they are all up to date, they are all relevant and suitable to the tested and assessed cybersecurity incidents, so that you could continuously update them and adjust them in accordance with new developments and new possible attack vectors. Diving some more into the security recommendations that we have given the possible risks, I'll start by introducing SaiFlow some more and share with you that we believe at combining two core components in order to meet the resiliency goals of your EV charging environment, and that is to gain full visibility of anything that you have inside your devices, inside your sites, inside your overall network, including all the current versions, all the current hardware models that you have, and to combine it with unique monitoring capabilities that take into account any changes, any vulnerabilities, and actual energy anomalies that could all together and separately help us indicate faster and with better accuracy that there is an ongoing cyber attack on your environment. And so for that, we have our own energy runtime security that is based on 4 core building blocks. The First one is, as I mentioned, to provide you with the necessary full visibility. Not only do we discover automatically all the charges that you have, and per use case, in case you have any other devices per site, we are discovering them as well. But we are also automatically realizing what are the specific hardware, vendor, software, firmware, all the versions that you have. And in case of exposure to any vulnerabilities that are either publicly disclosed or vulnerabilities that our own internal research team has discovered, we are alerting you on that in real time and proposing the necessary mitigation steps in order to continuously help you minimize the risks and exposure that you have per site and throughout your entire network. The next building block is to provide you with contextual monitoring. And so we are looking at both the power behavior and the network data, and we correlate between them in order to let you know whether there are currently any other either cyber attacks, cyber incidents, or energy anomalies that could indicate that something out of the ordinary is currently taking place. And our goal, of course, is to be able to detect unique attack vectors that are not necessarily detectable by traditional cybersecurity solutions that are very great, but not necessarily tailored for EV charging and other distributed energy environments. We're not stopping just at providing the real-time alerts. We are also enabling you to conduct the necessary follow-up investigations. And also here we introduce our own AI-driven capabilities that provide not just the actual alert, but also the entire reasoning behind that alert. What has caused that alert to be triggered? We're looking at what were the energy behaviors, what were the protocol commands, the network logs that all happened at that specific timestamp. And our goal is to help you accelerate the investigation, get to the root cause of these problems, so you could get to the next steps of mitigating and responding to these alerts accordingly. The fourth building block, depending on the preference and the architecture of the customer, we're also offering an optional zero trust and automated response capabilities through a variety of integrations with other cybersecurity vendors, including Palo Alto Networks, CrowdStrike, Fortinet, Checkpoint, and the list goes on and on. So in case you have, for example, a next generation firewall in some of your sites, we can deploy our energy contextual layer and provide you with automated tailored policies that could be enforced in accordance with ongoing anomalies, ongoing alerts, and so on. I will summarize that throughout our entire energy runtime security platform, our uniqueness of fusing energy data together with network data is our secret sauce. That is our unique approach to providing the necessary security measures to your overall EV charging environment. And of course, that meets us also at the visibility step, at the monitoring, the investigation, and the zero trust as well. To conclude, I will briefly provide you a live demonstration of our platform. And so this is SaiFlow's Energy Runtime Security Dashboard. Here you can see the aggregate executive summary of your cybersecurity posture throughout your entire network. You can see all the security issues categorized by severity, all the sites, once again, categorized and prioritized by severity, and the same goes for your entire assets throughout your network, 85 in this example within the demo environment, and once again, categorized in accordance with the severity of each of these assets. You can also see a map showcasing all the relevant applicable sites in your own network. And per each site, you can see a summarized overview of its own cybersecurity posture. And so our platform enables you to dive into these cyber incidents from various angles. On the left side, you can see the sites. That is the first angle. You can also dive through the actual assets that you have throughout your network, including, of course, the EV chargers themselves. You can start from a list of incidents or a list of vulnerabilities in accordance with your own internal policies and procedures within your own organization. So for example, when pressing the sites button, you will see a list of all your sites and an aggregate view of the sites categorized by risk. And if you want to see just the sites that are currently at the highest level of risk, you just need to press this button and you will see a short list of the high-risk sites, and you could start your own cybersecurity investigation focusing on this prioritized shortlist. The same goes for the assets view. You can press it and see a list of all your assets throughout your entire network, including all the sites under your management. Also here, you can see the categorized by the severity. Press and choose just the high severity and see a short list in this example of only 15 assets rather than close to 90. You can also see the groups and the categories of your assets. You can see there are 17 EV chargers in this example. You can see network devices, smart grid devices, once again, in accordance with your own architecture and your own content. For each device, in this case, EV chargers, you can see also their vendors, their models, and additional information. And you can dive deeper into each of these assets, see the ID, the information about the location, about the specifics of this EV charger. And at the bottom part of the screen, you can see the list of applicable vulnerabilities with high criticality. And also here, you can dive into each of these vulnerabilities, assess the information, and decide in accordance with our platform's recommendation, what are the necessary steps in order to mitigate this exposure and eliminate the possibility of exploiting these vulnerabilities. You can also investigate through the incidents view. And here you can see, once pressing, all the incidents that you have throughout your entire network. In this case, there are 5 incidents. When I say incidents, I mean either cyber incidents or energy anomalies, charging anomalies that could indicate in high probability an ongoing cyber incident. And so here, for example, we can choose the first incident within this list, press it. We are getting a summarized overview of that specific incident. We can dive deeper to view some more details about this incident. Once again, we can see the mitigation steps that our platform recommends. And there are 2 aspects I want to emphasize here. The first one, like in most of our abilities within the platform, under the hood, our engines incorporate AI capabilities that take the power data, the energy data, and correlate, analyze it together with the network data. So beyond the ability to conduct your own manual investigation, you can press this button and enforce an AI analysis of this incident. Let me show it to you. And within a few seconds, you are getting a full and thorough analysis of this specific incident with a bottom line that this is, with high probability, a likely incident and not a false positive, not an operational problem, but rather an actual cyber incident. And you can see also all the reasoning and explanation why our AI engine got to this conclusion, realizing that this is indeed a cyber incident. You can even dive deeper and see all the network data, all the network commands, all the evidence review that got our engines to this conclusion that eventually triggered the alert concerning this specific incident. And so this capability supports your own internal investigation process. And our core focus here is to help you accelerate that investigation so you could take the necessary steps in order to either prevent the entire potential damage or limit it as much as possible. In addition to that example of our AI capabilities, you can dive even deeper. And so reminding you, we started with the incident view, but we can dive deeper into the specific affected asset. In this case, you can see it's an EV charger, and we are pressing to view the asset. We are once again getting the ID and further information about this specific EV charger, the location of the site. We can see the applicable vulnerabilities that are relevant for this specific EV charger. And we can also see that there is one incident, that incident that got us started with this investigation. And if we press the performance view of this specific asset as part of our incident investigation, we will see all the energy view together with the network view. And this is truly and deeply the uniqueness of the SaiFlow Energy Runtime Security Platform that shows under a unified view the energy anomalies together with the actual network commands that were executed in order for us to realize what is the root cause for this alert, for this detection. And so on the upper side of this view, we can see the charger power behavior. And we can see that the platform provides an additional coloring for the specific anomaly pattern within the overall behavior. And if we dive deeper into the specific timestamp of that specific energy behavior, we will see in a deeper view the specific nuances of the power behavior and what were the exact commands from the network's perspective and the protocol perspective, in this case, the OCPP when it comes to the EV chargers, that were executed within that specific time frame where our platform detected the charging anomaly in real time. And so that really helps us to accelerate the investigation, but also provide better accuracy with the root cause analysis and the bottom line of this incident, so we could make the necessary decisions in order to avoid greater damage within our charging environment. The last aspect I would like to share with you is that when it comes to your own policies, you can always see the detections that our library provides you out of the box. You can see that there are currently in this demo environment close to 150 detections that we are providing. Our research team continuously add more and more detections based on new vulnerabilities, new attack vectors, new possible schemes that could exploit your EV charging environment. But we are also enabling you to add your own detections, your own alerts in accordance with your own internal policies, thresholds, and sensitivity. So you can press the Add Custom Policy, and in a very simple manner, in a drag and drop view, you can create and build your own policy, your own detection in accordance with your own requirements, and enforce it in your own production environment. That entire process takes somewhere between a few seconds and a few minutes, and you can adjust your cybersecurity posture in accordance with your own preference and your own internal policies very easily and very quickly. And with that, I will conclude the demo of the SaiFlow Energy Runtime Security. And of course, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to SaiFlow or to Driivz and ask further questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. First of all, thank you, Ron, Lionel, for the amazing, collaboration partnership. I think it's very essential, the value that we are bringing to the industry. Okay, because you guys know all the mystery of the cybersecurity behind the scenes. So well done. And let's move to the next item of cybersecurity and AI, which is really interesting. AI is very popular nowadays. Okay, Claude, ChatGPT, and other tools. And when it's become to cyber, so once upon a time, cybersecurity means waiting to something to go wrong, then reacting. Now we anticipate some smarter system, I call it, can spot the anomaly at the moment it appears, analyze patterns, and even contain attacks automatically. By using the AI cyber operations, we detect threats faster, respond automatically, and continuously learn from patterns. So it's not just about increasing the efficiency, but it's about staying ahead of attackers who are also using the AI. And cybersecurity, all of you know, it's not optional, it's essential. So let's see one example that we are using in Driivz, and later on we will drill into other use cases. But for us, cybersecurity is not just a feature, it's part of our DNA. So just for the last few months, couple of months, we can see in our system intercepted over 2,500 insurgent attempts, malicious attack, malware, payloads, you name it. So they were all stopped before they could do any damage to our IT, or more, worst case is to our production environment. So this is a result of continuous monitoring and using AI as one of our cybersecurity tools to protect the issue, the attack, even before it's going into the door, let's say. So what do we have? Why we need AI? First, scale security beyond human and rule-based limits, adapt to a new evolving attackers vector. There are very popular vectors. Ron, I think, mentioned it. So you need to react fast to detect the pattern and block them. Enable real-time anomaly and fraud detection. We will go into the fraud detection in the next slides. Automate response and reduce the reaction time. And prediction is very important, so you can predict and prevent future attack patterns. And this is interesting, okay? This is based on some research, and what we can see, okay? It's amazing. 3 out of 4 organizations now using AI for identity management. Over 80% rely on the AI tools for network protection. 9 out of 10 use it to continuous monitoring. And you see many CISOs, Chief Information Security Officer, already using the AI tools in various of applications, let's say. So the takeaway here is that cybersecurity leader can't just defend. They must adapt, re-architect the cybersecurity ecosystem, and even transform their organization, processes, tools into the AI vision. So the cybersecurity, there is a two-way relationship between AI and cybersecurity. There is a fascinating feedback happening here. And in one side, you can see using AI to analyze data, detect anomalies, and automate response. This is what AI for cyber. But in the other hand, okay, we need a cyber for AI. So we have AI tools, fantastic AI tools. How we protect them? Okay, so we need to have all the tools, processes across the organization to make sure that we are envision those two ends approach, and the success will come from a human AI synergy, where technology augments defenders rather than replacing them. So we are not, AI is not coming to replace any, cybersecurity persons, but yes, it's coming to increase the efficiency and be more rapid, response rapidly to cyber event and try to avoid them before it's impacting our network. Here we can see what we in Driivz do thanks to the AI tools. So let's start with code verification, vulnerability scanning. So I guess most of you familiar with the current tools, and there is, thanks to the AI, the impact of the AI, it enhanced the coverage of the tools. Okay, the coverage of testing, coverage of discovery of vulnerabilities in the system. We scanning the code. Okay, each code scanning is done automatically and rapidly. Penetration test. So in old school days, we use third-party vendor to run penetration tests for several days, weeks, then get the results, then retesting, and so on. So penetration test life cycle taking between 1 month to 3 months. And now we have the big difference because we use the AI tools for penetration ongoing continuously, and it's faster, more efficient. For sure we can, and we can see it, that we are detecting much more vulnerabilities in sometimes that the human penetration test the hackers didn't find. So it's very, very encouraging, and thanks to this tool, I think I can say that we are safe, and recently we don't have any, major vulnerability, let's say this way. Incident response. Incident response is very important because we commit part of our compliance, GDPR, for example, data privacy and others are asking to have incident report within 24 hours, right? So old school days, we collect data logs from several systems. We need to analyze to see the root cause analysis, then to compose the incident report document. So it takes a few days, right? So reduce the incident response time is also the response and the report from few days to few hours, let's say. The next is using endpoint security XDR. So that's proactive protection in motion. Okay, AI engine can detect easily and smartly and automatically alerts, response, and payload the response, and so on. Cyber intelligence. Okay, I think Ron and Lionel mentioned it in their lecture about the darknet, and so we can collect the information, but there is a lot of piece of information. So we need to run the AI tools in order to get the relevant insights. It will help us to avoid the attack. So enable IOC-based cyber intelligence and automation threat prevention. So there is a very high impact here. Sorry, the last one is fraud detection. I will talk about it. We plan it for this quarter, next quarter, and using the AI to analyze different patterns and detect fraud and even block them. So this is the use case, very popular. I guess most of the EV charging ecosystem using the RFID for like a chip that we have. I think I have it here. The RFID, so you swipe it and then start charging. So about 80-90% using this RFID, and it's very easy to clone it, to duplicate it. So what we will do? So there is a lot of other solutions like ISO 15118 and other way to secure the charging event, but RFID is here to stay, I guess, for the next couple of years. So we can come and promote our solution. So we have a behavior analytics real-time fraud detection. We can detect anomalies. We know the pattern. We learn from the past. So we have all the logs, tools, and processes to detect the fraud, alert it, send alert to the relevant operators, and even avoid it and block it. So trying to summarize, so Driivz security at a glance. So when we're talking about security, few pillars are very important here. AI, advanced security, so use the AI, as we discussed here, to detect threats faster, response automatically, and this is really helpful. Compliance is very important. Okay, we have the ISO 27001, SOC 1, SOC 2, NIS 2 now, and also follow the OCA. The OCA, they have a very amazing cybersecurity sub-working group with a lot of white papers about how to increase the security level of EV charging network. So it's also recommended GDPR and other compliance. It's very, very popular now. And I think that we can see in the RFP that we get Nowadays, it's about 20 to 30% of the RFP questions are related to cybersecurity. So this is just to emphasize how it's important, okay, cybersecurity to the EV charging network in order to protect the network and have the desired uptime. Our solution Driivz include proactive security monitoring and global cybersecurity standard, robust encryption. Encryption is also important. Authentication, rule-based access control, so role-based solution. Each role need to have its own access roles and permissions. Secure API. API is very, very popular. You know, nowadays the EV charging ecosystem is connected to several systems, so we need to secure the API in order to avoid cyber attack from this vector, and make a regular security audit. Penetration test is good, code scanning is good, but audit. Use a third-party auditor to run, you know, new IC, you know, some new vulnerabilities, let's say. So use audit to scan and to analyze your EV charging ecosystem. As the saying goes, in God we trust, the rest we monitor. In summary, Driivz comprehensive security solution reduce cyber risk, protects sensitive data, and build customer trust, ensuring a secure, reliable EV charging network. Cybersecurity is not an IT issue, it's a business enabler. In EV charging, a secure network means higher uptime, regulatory compliance, and customer loyalty. Think about your CSAT. At Driivz, we are committed to delivering that level of trust through continuous innovation and AI-driven defense. So with this slide, I want to thank you very much for your time, and we'll be happy to take any questions.
It's a great time to thank our presenters, Shachar, Ron, and Lionel, and of course to thank you, our audience, and for your patience with all these internet issues. We will be publishing this webinar on our website, and we look forward to seeing you at the next webinar, where we hope the internet will be more stable. Thank you for joining us, and see you next time.